Chapter 11. A stick, Jim had said, but of course there were no decent sticks anywhere. Wolf had probably stumbled over hundreds of suitable sticks that day, but now, when he needed a flagpole, there was nothing but a jungle of vines and twigs in the undergrowth. Nerves, tiredness and anger gripped at his stomach, making Wolf double up in pain. He slipped deeper into the thick bush and dug a hole in the ground with the heel of his boot to fashion a makeshift dunny. He dropped his dax and squatted over the hole. As he got on with his business, he surveyed the plants around him and couldn't help smiling to himself. "Yeah, Davy, Bushman's toilet paper." "It'll be there if you need it," Davy had written on his fact sheet. And it sure was. Brachyglottis rapanda, he said to himself. Davy had put the plant into most of his exam questions, and Wolf had never been able to remember its name. Now that it came to him as surely as the toilet paper did, and he was able to reach out and tear off the large, velvety leaves as Davy had predicted. "One big walk, Davy, and I'll be out of here. Sun setting on my left and follow the compass north. How hard can that be?" He listened for a moment, wishing his words could get through, but there was no sign of Davy hearing him. He buried his crap and was walking back to Jim when he found the perfect stick. It was as tall as Wolf, and dry and strong and straight. Wolf dragged it back to their base. "Good work," Jim said. "Now take a rock and bash it into the ground out there on the exposed hilltop." Jim had the pack open and all the contents lay around him. "I'm sorting out the supplies here." Bashing a thick piece of wood into a dry, hard landscape is not easy at the best of times. Wolf had to pull out a prickly, sticky plant by wrapping his jacket around the plant's base, and it left, as he'd hoped, a patch of soft dirt and a head start on the hole. He drove the stick in and brought the rock down on the top of it several times. The stick was too tall, the ground too hard, and the rock was useless. He wanted to kick the whole lot down the hill. "Why am I doing this?" Wolf yelled out to Jim. Jim slithered forward to peer out at Wolf before he answered. "There's no way I can walk out of here, so the flag is an indicator in case I'm lucky enough to be found by search and rescue." "Of course you'll be found," Wolf said, but the reality of their situation clouded Wolf on the head like the rock he'd been bashing into the ground. "Keep going, you're making progress," Jim shouted. "Like hell I am." Wolf brought the rock down with several hard blows to show Jim how useless it was. Then he felt and saw the stick slide into the earth at least 4 inches. "And some more," Jim yelled. Wolf pummeled the stick again and again until the dry rock split in his hands. He shook the stick and it was secure for now, but it probably wouldn't hold up in a high wind. He went back up to Jim, who handed him another rock. "Get it in further and then tie this T-shirt to the top." The new rock only survived 3 massive blows before it split, but the flagpole felt locked in. The red T-shirt was tatty and thin, and Wolf easily ripped it into shreds to tie around the pole. He felt like a strong man as he tore the shirt and a mountaineer as he secured it to the stake. He stood back and looked at his "I was here" mark. The strips of red fabric moved in the breeze, and Wolf could see that the idea was good. "Come on," Jim called out. "The day's ticking by, and we've got more to sort out." "Like what?" Wolf came back into the shade beside Jim. "Can I have some water?" "A bit. You're going to meet your stream by the wasp's nest in an hour or so. Therefore," Jim held up the 2 drink bottles with vastly different levels of water in them, "you need to have some now and save about that much for your walk." He indicated the level on the bottle with the least amount of water in it. "I can't get more water until I'm picked up, so I'm keeping this fuller bottle for Ralph and me." "Is that all the water we've got?" "I was counting on the stream for a top-up." "What about Tag?" "Tag's another story. You'll take him, of course, and he'll last until you hit the stream." Jim put the bottles on the ground in 2 separate areas, and he noticed the collection of things that Jim had sorted for him to carry. "What about food?" "Let's finish talking about Tag first. If he goes missing, put something on the ground like this T-shirt that I'm wearing." Jim started to peel it off as he spoke. "Secure it. Tag will find it and wait with it until help comes." You know this for sure? Wolf glanced at Tag, who was sleeping peacefully under his rock by the pig. It seemed a tall order for a dog. I do. Jim passed the T-shirt over, then shuffled forward on his bum to open the pack again. He held his leg above the knee and winced in pain as he tried to find a comfortable position. Now we've got a big one to discuss. Are you still concentrating? Yeah? What? The truck. Can you drive? Well, I've had a few goes, but what? Don't tell me it was an automatic. No, I've driven a manual using the gears and all that, but only a couple of times. My mate has a long driveway and he drove his mother's car up and down for a laugh. Jim nodded slowly. Thank God for that. So you've got an idea of using the clutch to change gears? Yeah, well, I haven't done it for a few months, but I reckon I still can. Mum wasn't keen. I can imagine. Wolf put his hand out and wriggled a pretend neutral. You start here and go across and up for first, right, and down for second. We never got out of second gear because the driveway wasn't long enough. Well, the gears on my truck work on the same principle, but they're a column shift. That means the gear stick is on the left side of the steering wheel. Jim looked hopeful, imploring. I don't suppose you noticed this morning? Sorry. Thought not. I'll explain. The truck's ancient, Jim said, but with the right techniques it will start. Jim put the pack on his good leg and felt around for a twig to poke out the side. Pretend this is the steering wheel and this twig's the gear stick. It's the same idea and you can still feel neutral if you give it a wiggle. Jim wiggled the stick. Now the first gear is forward and up. He demonstrated again and said, forward and up, as if Wolf was thick. Come and try. Wolf came around and squatted beside Jim. He moved the stick and said, forward and up, in a slow, idiotic voice. Jim scowled and grabbed the food bag. Here, have a sandwich. It might sort your attitude. Wolf devoured the bread, which had dried out in spite of the damp paper towels that Rowena had wrapped him in that morning. The bacon and egg was full of parsley and mayonnaise and something else. Wolf couldn't identify. Good. Can I have another one? I guess so. You should take all the food as you're walking and need the fuel. Wolf knew he should argue, but the meagre container of leftover food didn't look enough for one, let alone two. What'll you eat? I'll be lying still, so I won't need much, and I know how to survive on grubs and leaves. That's impressive. Wolf demolished another sandwich, and Jim used the time to shuffle back to lean on the tree again. Okay, Wolf said, show me the gears again. They did the gear changes a few times and then Jim explained the choke. You'll only need it if it's really cold. It'll depend on what time you reach the truck. If I reach the truck. Well, that's a stupid thing to say. Jim leaned his head back but thought of something else straight away and lifted it up again. Don't use too much choke or you'll flood the engine. Flood? What do you mean? Wolf shook his head. Forget it. If I get to the truck, I'm going to wait and hope someone's coming along the road. That road's isolated and a dead end, so that idea's no good. Jim threw the makeshift gear twig away. Stay in second gear, you'll wreck the engine, but it's more important that you don't crash. And second, gives you more control. He rubbed his beard and then tugged it as he thought, oh yeah, you'll be driving west, so you won't need to turn the truck around. It's facing the right way. What else? Remember the blocks of wood I put under the back tyres? Wolf didn't get a chance to answer. Pull out the one on the passenger side first, and at the last minute, take the one on the driver's side. The brakes are dodgy, but the truck's not parked on a steep slope, so you should be fine. Chuck them on the tray. What was that flood thing? Too much choke. Jim shook his head. There's millions of things, but you've got to get going. Take all this stuff. And he waved his hand over the water bottle, the food, the compass, truck keys, and a T-shirt. How do I carry it? Put the T-shirt on, zip everything except the water into your jacket pockets and tie it around your waist. Carry the water. Wolf stared at the array on the ground. Can I have the knife? No, don't be stupid. The knife's lethal. I want you home in one piece. I might need to defend myself. Against what? Jim gave a sharp laugh. There's no snakes or bears. You've already run into the most problematic thing, a wasp's nest. Drug dealers? Oh, for God's sakes, I'm doing my best to stay patient, but you're pushing me with this nonsense. Leave the knife, pack your gear and get going. Jim leaned his head back and kept it there. He had his eyes shut, but Wolf knew he was aware of his every movement.